The 7 News Detroit studios. This is Detroit's Mayoral Debate.
Good evening and welcome to Detroit's Mayoral Debate. For the next hour, we will be asking the questions Detroiters want answers to before they cast their ballot in the November election. I am 7 News Detroit anchor Carolyn Clifford.
And I'm 7 Editorial Director Chuck Stokes. We're joined tonight by Detroit City Council President Mary Sheffield and Reverend Solomon Kinlock Jr., the senior pastor of Triumph Church based in the city of Detroit. Candidates, we thank both of you for joining us this evening.
We certainly do. Now, these are the rules tonight, previously agreed upon by both campaigns. Candidates will each have 90 seconds for opening statements, 1 minute to answer questions, and a 30-second rebuttal if they choose to do so. They will also have 90 seconds for closing statements. We held a random drawing earlier to determine speaking order. Reverend Kinlock, you will begin with your opening statement first. You have 90 seconds, sir.
Good evening, Detroit. I want to take this moment to personally extend an invitation for you to partner with me to lift every block. Detroit is at a critical point. We're in a time and in a tenure where the poverty rate is the highest it has been since 2017. We have more than 51% of our children living in poverty. We have violent crime, the second highest in the nation. And then on top of that, 3 out of 4 Detroiters are struggling with an affordable place to reside and to live. This is a failure of institutional politics and institutional leadership. And Detroit deserves more. I grew up in the city of Detroit, the west side of Detroit. I know what it means to hear in a city where people are saying that the city is coming back, but it has not reached your block. It hasn't knocked on your door. And that's why I spent my entire life using my platform, not as a pedestal, but as a platform to lift an entire community of people. The Kinlock promise, the Kinlock pledge is this: I'll make sure that every child has access to a quality education, giving them a pathway to college and giving them a pathway to a career. I'll make sure that every family travels the road from rentership to ownership and making sure that they're not worried about losing their homes. I'll make sure, on top of that, that every senior lives with dignity and respect.
Thank you, Reverend. We certainly appreciate your opening statement. Council President Sheffield, your 90-second opening statement.
Thank you, and thank you to WXYZ for hosting this debate tonight. Good evening. As a native Detroiter, I've given my entire life to serving this city. 12 years ago, as we emerged from bankruptcy, when people and businesses were leaving this city, I made the decision to step up and to serve. And for over a decade, I have been delivering for all Detroiters, leading with integrity, conviction, and action. Together, working with my colleagues in this administration, we have improved our city services, we've reduced crime, we've invested in our parks, in our recreational centers. We've allocated over $60 million to home repair and beautification efforts. We've created and preserved over 14,000 units of affordable housing, and we've put Detroiters to work with record investments in economic development projects. Now, while I acknowledge our progress, I am running for mayor because I believe there is more work to do to ensure that opportunity reaches every neighborhood of our city, and that housing, education, good paying jobs, and safety are within reach for every Detroiter. This is a critical moment in Detroit's recovery, where we can move forward with progress, or we can gamble with our future with inexperienced leadership. I am prepared and I am ready day one to move this city forward. I hope to have your support.
Wow. Thank you both for your opening statements. Now we're going to move into our question segment, and the first question is for you, Reverend Kinlock. We keep hearing that crime is down in the city of Detroit. Murders, carjackings, robberies. But nearly every week, another Detroit teen is caught up in some sort of shooting. We hear it all the time here on the news. How do you explain the disconnect between the statistics and what people see in their neighborhoods? And what will you do if you are elected mayor to solve this problem?
I believe that is the trouble with failed leadership, that we have a candidate running for mayor that believe that the citizens of Detroit want headlines and headlights instead of headway. I've had the honor and I've had the burden, although it was a blessing, to be able to give children dignity in death that they didn't give in life because their life was taken too soon. One of the reasons I believe that there's such a disconnect is because Detroiters deserve two things. They deserve safety and they deserve justice. And the reality is anytime you have a department that's grading their own tests, you're going to have a problem with the fudging of the answers and the fudging of the numbers. We have to hold those that are in leadership accountable to do what they have promised the citizens of Detroit to do, that they're going to deliver not just justice but safety.
Thank you so much, Reverend Kinlock. Council President Sheffield, same question for you. How do you explain the disconnect between the statistics and what people see in their neighborhoods? And what will you do if elected mayor to help solve this problem?
So public safety and leadership has been one of the most challenging things that I've had to encounter, seeing the devastation that it causes our communities and our families. No one should feel unsafe in their home and in their neighborhoods. Now, while we've had historic record lows of crime in Detroit, and just this year alone, we've seen a reduction in all categories of violent crime compared to last year, we know that one life lost is still far too many. I believe in a comprehensive and holistic approach to public safety that is rooted in strong partnerships with our law enforcement agencies and our community. I will ensure as mayor that we are investing in prevention, more year-round youth employment for our young people, ensuring that we're expanding our community violence intervention work, that we are launching the city's first ever Office of Gun Violence Prevention, and that we're investing in intervention, expanding community policing efforts, boots on the ground in our neighborhoods, and also our mental health co-response as well.
Thank you so much. Reverend Kinlock, do you want a 30-second rebuttal?
Yes, because at some point we have to get to a point and a place where we understand this is not a time to take a victory lap, particularly when you're seeing mothers and fathers sitting on the front row of a funeral and they are living life in reverse. Because no parent expects to have to bury their child. They expect that their children are going to bury them. And while we've done some great things and while Council President have done some great things, they're not good enough and they've not gone far enough.
Would you like?
Yeah, I think what we don't need is someone who consistently calls out the problems. We've heard not one solution in his response to how we can address the issue of public safety. I am on the ground firsthand with victims and families daily, advocating for funding for our CVI groups. He's been completely absent. So we don't need someone who calls out problems and challenges. We need someone who can address them and solve them. And that is what we will continue to do by investing in our community violence work, ensuring that DPD has the resources that they need, and that we continue to drive down violence in this city.
Thank you so much. Chuck?
Without question, we received more questions from viewers on safety than any other topic. So we'd like to extend one more question on that, but approach it from a slightly different level. The question goes first to you, Council President Sheffield. President Trump has ordered the deployment of National Guard troops to several big American cities. This has sparked legal challenges, protests, and controversy. As mayor, would you welcome National Guard troops in the city of Detroit to help fight crime and enforce our immigration laws?
No, I am strongly opposed to any National Guard coming to the city of Detroit. I do not believe that militarizing our neighborhoods is the solution. What we must do is become a national model of how to drive crime down in Detroit. And as I mentioned earlier, it is about a coordinated strategy that is rooted in partnerships with our law enforcement agencies and our communities. We know that the national troops causes some very unfortunate memories of 1967, and we do not want to go back. And so what we do, or I welcome, I should say, is federal resources that will address the underlying social issues of gun violence in our city, mental health, job training, education, and housing, so that we can actually address the root causes. And we will continue to work with our law enforcement agencies and our community partners to drive crime down. And for the first time ever, launching an Office of Gun Violence Prevention that would treat gun violence as a public health crisis. So no, I do not support the national troops, and we will ensure that they are not present in our communities.
Thank you very much. Reverend Kinlock, you have certainly said that crime is a major issue.
Yes.
Would you welcome added resources from the federal government to come in and be able to help with crime in this city as well as enforcing immigration laws?
Not in a martial law fashion, but in collaboration in order to make sure that we're protecting soft spots throughout the city of Detroit. We have a problem. 58% of the people polled do not believe that institutional politicians take their considerations into the highest priority and agenda. At that point, people are looking for not just builders, they are looking for also people that are going to fight and stand up for them. That's why I'm in the race. That's why I've been able to cross over 7 other individuals and get to the number 2 spot in order to participate in this, because people are looking for something different. They've heard this talk before. Crime didn't just start. It's been going on for 12 years. Now all of a sudden we want to talk about doing something. What have we been doing for the last 12 years that has made a difference in the lives? I understand she's talking about she's got experience, but how has that experience changed the experience of the people in this city?
All right. Council President,
You know,
you have 30 seconds.
I would say the same thing to our pastor. He has the ability to convene, that he talks about convening a table, putting stakeholders together. He's been absent on every single public safety initiative in this city. We just recently were fighting for funds to come from Lansing to Detroit to save our public safety trust fund and continue the grassroots work that is happening in our communities. The pastor was silent. And so we do need more than rhetoric and talk and slogans. We need leadership that delivers. I've done that, and I will continue to do that as mayor of this city.
All right. Reverend, you have 30 seconds if you'd like to rebut.
She keep talking about what she's tried, what she's tried, what she's tried. Listen, people in this city are not looking for movement. They're looking for substance. They're looking for change. For 12 years, you sat at the table. That is the legislative body. City council is the legislative body. They create, they build. The mayor administers, he executes. Anything that she wants to do as mayor, she could have done it seated at the city council table the last 12 years. And so at the end of the day, why is it that she didn't do it?
Okay,
Carolyn?
we're going to move on to our next question, and it's about quality of life in the city of Detroit. You know, Detroit has made a lot of progress, new developments, you know that, more visitors downtown than we've ever seen
Yes.
before. But we've heard from many residents who say they don't feel that this is happening in their own neighborhoods. So we do have a viewer question for you, Reverend Kinlock.
Yes.
From Woody C. He says, are you going to rebuild the neighborhood where we live? Nice to have a beautiful downtown, but we need a nice place to live. How do you make sure Detroit's comeback reaches everyone?
That is one of the biggest problems that residents in this city encounter. They're encountering feeling like that they have been left out and left behind and not listened to. And that's what the Kinloch promise will make sure happens. What we would do is make sure that we're using the tool like the land bank that has been used for big businesses and big development to make sure that the residents have connection to those resources and those relationships so that they can experience development in their own town. We'll make sure that we provide dollars, low interest loans and grants in order to make sure that small business and residents in the community, like the people downtown, have been able to use those resources downtown. We have to make sure that those resources are being used in the community to help build up and develop the community. We got to give our neighborhoods a chance like we've given downtown all of the chances.
Council President Sheffield, how do you make sure Detroit's comeback reaches everyone in
So some of my most favorable memories growing up was in my neighborhood on 7 Mile and Livernois. And that is why I deeply believe that every neighborhood should be walkable, safe, and vibrant, which is why I created the Neighborhood Improvement Fund that has turned blighted and dump sites into green space. I've invested in parks and our recreational centers citywide. And as mayor, first and foremost, we will stabilize our neighborhoods, addressing issues like sidewalks and alleys and trees. We will expand home repair grants and beautification grants. And we will also ensure that we are addressing blight and holding vacant landlords accountable. Secondly, we are going to ensure that we are activating our commercial corridors, bringing more retail back into our neighborhoods, coffee stores, restaurants, grocery stores, and ensuring that Detroit-based businesses and small businesses have the opportunity to develop those sites. And more importantly, we are going to drive down property taxes. We know that that is a burden to our neighborhoods and those who are living in our homes in our city.
Thank you so much, Council President Sheffield. Reverend Kinlock, you want to have a rebuttal there?
When you talk about Detroit, Detroit is 138 square miles. And you're talking about you've developed only 10, 11, or 12% of that. Based on the city's own data, they got $1 billion in ARPA funds that was designed to eradicate poverty, and they only spent 5% in the neighborhoods, 5% in the neighborhoods, and 5% on housing. How does that say that that's what you say that you have put your emphasis on when you've been sitting at that table?
Thank you, Reverend
So
Kinlock.
that's completely false, and I understand.
based on your
Excuse me.
numbers.
I understand, Pastor, that it takes about an hour and a half to get from Oakland Township to Detroit to know what's happening on the ground here. And while you've been building up Southfield, you could have been helping build up Detroit.
Well, you own a home.
It doesn't take a position or a title to do that. We know pastors all around this city that have contributed to economic development, who've built housing, who've helped transform their communities. His church is in my district, and our community wants to know where he's been. So we will continue to drive neighborhood growth with action, not with words.
Thank you.
Very good.
Jeff?
Let's touch on something that you both mentioned in your opening statements, but want you to elaborate on it, and that's momentum. In 2013, Detroit filed the largest municipal bankruptcy in U.S. history. Since its recovery, the city has balanced consecutive budgets, hosted a record-setting NFL draft, restored its historic train station, opened several new hotels and restaurants, and won #1 national awards for its cultural institutions and its public spaces. How would your administration keep this momentum going forward? Council President
Well, thank you
Sheffield.
for acknowledging some of the progress that we've made. And I think it's important that we can recognize that we've made progress while also recognizing that there's more work to do. And so $5.4 billion of economic growth has taken place over the last 12 years. I will ensure that we continue that by fostering a business-friendly environment, reducing regulations, cutting red tape, and making Detroit the best place in America to grow and start a business. We will also ensure that we're driving property tax reform, as I mentioned earlier, a huge barrier to both businesses and residents. And we're going to ensure that we're investing in our workforce. We must invest in people to ensure that we're attracting high-wage, livable wage jobs, and that Detroiters are at the forefront of receiving those jobs. As we talk about economic growth, we must also ensure that small businesses are at the forefront of that conversation, because we have a unique opportunity to scale and to grow and to ensure that small businesses participate in the development and resurgence of our city.
Thank you, Council President. Reverend Kinlock, how would you continue this momentum and the fact that many people have now referred to Detroit as a model of being a destination city?
Well, no one is disputing the fact that some good things have happened in the city of Detroit. It's just not good enough. But we have not saying that we have not come far. We just have not come far enough. When you look at a budget like Detroit and see that just a small portion of those resources have been allocated to people and neighborhood, people have not been a priority. Budget is about priority. And we have prioritized big business and we prioritized downtown, but we have not prioritized the neighborhood. No one is saying that we are not open for business and we will not continue to be open for business. No one is trying to tear business down. But what we are trying to do is lift the citizens of Detroit up. We're not trying to take chairs away from the table, but what we are trying to do is make sure that the people in this city have an opportunity to put chairs at the table.
Thank you very much. Do you have a response?
I would just hope that the table can be formed very soon. I mean, you've had the opportunity to do that. And I would just say this, our commercial corridors, things like Kercheval Avenue, Dexter, East Warren, Livernois, we've invested in our commercial corridors. We have approved thousands of units of housing, turning vacant and dilapidated structures into affordable housing. We've invested in over 150 city parks and activated small businesses all throughout this city. We have made progress. I do believe that there's more work to do, and that is why I am running for mayor, to actually take action in the leadership that is needed to move this city forward.
Reverend Kinlock?
Affordable for who? The median income in the city of Detroit is less than $40,000 a year. And you telling me that you've built $1.5 billion of affordable housing, not for the people that live in the city. Who are you talking to? Where have I been? That's where I've been, in the community. And if you talk to the people in the community, they'll tell you I've been in your district because you ain't even been there.
All right, let's move on to the next question, and it has to do with education, which is a big topic in the city of Detroit. The illiteracy rate in Detroit is still among the highest in the country, which is really sad. The most recent data from the nation's report card found that only 5% of Detroit fourth graders were considered proficient or above in reading last year. I know you don't control the schools, but what can a mayor do to help ensure Detroit kids can read, can learn, and succeed? Reverend Kinlock, that question is for you.
Although the school district is not the mayor's job, it's still the mayor's responsibility. And I would be an educational mayor. I will make sure that we create a cabinet level position, a chief educational officer, that will partner with the school district, because the residents of the city of Detroit have already decided they want an elected school board, and that elected school board to appoint a superintendent. But what we will do is partner with the district to make sure that we're removing the social ills that keep the children from showing up in class in a productive way, not to just survive, but to thrive. There are a whole lot of things that take place before those children get to class. And so we got to make sure that they have access to mental health professionals, that they have access to affordable housing, that they have access to food and grocery stores and healthy eating, that they have access to extra curriculum activities to keep them off the street and give them a sanctuary to be safe.
Thank you so much, Reverend Kinlock. Council President Sheffield, as mayor, how do you ensure Detroit kids can read, learn, and succeed?
Thank you. I believe that every child deserves access to quality education. And while the mayor does not control the school system, the mayor can be a greater partner to drive better outcomes for our youth. I've already led citywide initiatives like State of the Youth and provided funding for after-school programs like Gold Line Detroit. My administration will have a liaison working directly with our DPS, CD, and charter schools on a consistent basis. We will ensure that we have robust after-school programming within a 2-mile radius of every school, focusing in on literacy. We will provide the wraparound service and address the social determinants that prevent and impact our families and our students, like mental health and housing, and having support in the schools and on the grounds to support our families and students. And lastly, as a mayor, I can ensure that we have safe routes to school, and fixing the infrastructure around our schools and providing more coordinated transportation to reduce absenteeism and get our students back in school.
Absenteeism, a big, big deal.
Yes.
Reverend Kinlock, you have a rebuttal?
Yeah. I came through Detroit public school system, and so I know what that feeling feels like, to show up with inequities and injustices before you even get to the classroom. That's why I'm fueled. That's why I'm fired up with a sense of urgency to do something about it, because this hasn't just started. It's been going on too long. That's why we've used the church as a sanctuary, hosting kids' college on Saturdays, giving them a plethora of opportunities so that they can find a safe alternative other than standing on street corners.
Thank you, Reverend Kinlock.
Yeah, I just think it's important to mention, he indicated I wasn't present, and he's been virtually absent this entire campaign, with a sense of entitlement, not showing up to community meetings and forums with respected leaders in our community, and I think that Detroit does deserve better. I will lastly say that right now, every student in Detroit that graduates from high school can get access to post-secondary education through the Detroit Promise. We want to enhance that program and ensure that we're creating pathways so that every resident who wants to receive post-secondary education has a pathway to do so.
Thank you both. Chuck?
Thank you, Carol. Candidates, a number of people almost pleaded with us to ask you about issue of housing and census. So we sort of coupled them together with the letters that we received. Question goes to you, Council President Sheffield. According to the U.S. Census, Detroit has experienced population growth the last 2 years after many years of decline. In housing, Detroit tops lists for affordability and for being an undervalued market. New housing starts have increased, home prices are rising, but rental rate for appreciation is outpacing all of them. How will you keep Detroit growing, but at the same time make sure that it's affordable for all ages?
Thank you. So I believe housing is a human right. And every resident deserves access to safe, quality, affordable housing, which is why I created the city's first ever housing trust fund that provides funding for units for housing for the most vulnerable in our city. I also saved and funded the home repair grant program for our seniors and disabled. As mayor number one, we will ensure that we're expediting and fast tracking the development of affordable housing in our city, building housing for all income levels and for all stages of life. And what we are defining as affordable, we want to ensure is actually affordable for those who need it most. Secondly, we are going to build on our down payment assistance program. We've had 700 new first-time home buyers in that program, and we want to create more paths to home ownership. We also have to ensure that we have more inclusionary policies in place, ways that developers can invest into our housing trust fund to ensure that the greatest need of housing is actually developed here in our city.
Very good. Reverend Kinlock.
It's amazing to me that housing is becoming a topic now on this campaign trail when I start discussing it in February. When you go back before February, it was not such a hot and urgent topic. It's become hot now because the residents have gotten to the point where they've said enough is enough. While she's talking about everything that she's done, we have to remember this. Poverty has gone up through the roof. The majority of the kids, regardless of what she say, she created the homeless task force. Poverty has gone up, and the majority of our kids are still living in poverty. So whatever she's saying tonight that she has done, it has not gone far enough to change the experiences of the people that live in this city. That's why people like me are stepping up and standing up, because the people that sit in these seats have not delivered for us.
Yeah, Council President, you have a response?
Wow, we heard no solutions, not one solution, it's more rhetoric. And we continue to have a housing crisis in this city. I've created the Right to Counsel program, keeping tenants in their home from eviction, the home repair grant program, ensuring we have the city's first ever housing trust fund, the inclusionary housing ordinance, and much more that has paved the way for affordable units in this city. Again, we have a pastor here who has not developed one unit of housing, but we have a lot of your peers who've joined in to our faith-based initiative where we're going to be supporting our faith-based institutions to spur economic development and build housing here in the city of Detroit.
Reverend Kinlock.
Mary, it's disingenuous for you to assault me and my church for all of the work that you know we've done in this community, even helping you and your father. Triumph Church and Solomon Kinlock have done more for this community than anybody you know. And if you talk to the citizens of this city, they'll tell you that what you're saying is disingenuous and it's a flat out lie.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. We're going to talk about infrastructure for a second. And this question is for you, Reverend Kinlock. Every heavy rain brings a lot of flooding in the city of Detroit, from basements to freeways across the city. You know that. And just this past February, a massive water main break flooded homes and cars in southwest Detroit. The pipe was around 90 years old.
Yes.
How will you fix the city's aging infrastructure and protect residents from these constant problems?
Well, Carolyn, you know that touches and sticks a pin in my emotion, because I thought that's what the drainage and the sewage tax and fees were for, to help address those substantive and systematic issues. That's why the affordability plan was supposed to be created to give 35,000 residents and commercial operators and business owners opportunity in order to find a remedy and a resolve. Something to give relief so that we can continue to do what we've always done. I will continue to work with the Great Lakes Water Authority. I will continue to work with the Water Department. I'll continue to work on the federal level and on the state level in order to make sure that we come up with remedies to fix the problems that have existed far too long in our community. We got areas that are flood zone that even you got dollars appropriated from them, but now they can't get development dollars because they are designated as a flood zone.
Thank you much. Council President Sheffield, how will you fix the city's aging infrastructure and protect residents from these constant problems that we hear about?
Thank you. Well, let me just first say, I also think it's disingenuous of you, Pastor, to sit here and insinuate that I've done nothing for this city. For 12 years, I've been on the front line delivering for this city over 20 pieces of legislation, a true record of people, progress, and prosperity. And not one time, as your council member who represents your district where your church resides, have you come to our office? Have you come to a council meeting? Have you raised concerns around housing, property tax reform, infrastructure, transit? You've been completely silent. And so I think that is disingenuous to insult me as a leader as if I have not contributed to the growth of our city. As it relates to infrastructure, we will ensure that we are continuing to invest in our infrastructure. We must ensure that we're providing resiliency within our system, programs like our basement backup protection program, where we've given grants for individuals who are experiencing backups, and ensuring that we have a strategic method from a funding capacity, whether it's through the state or the federal government, to ensure that we're providing the investments in our infrastructure as much as possible.
Thank you, Council President Sheffield. Reverend Kinlock, do you want to rebut that?
Yeah, the tenor and tone of my opponent tonight reminds people the danger of having individuals who are privileged to sit in these seats of power. When I distributed laptops to 10,000 kids in the community, you were not there. When I was delivering thousands of groceries and meals to families every day, you were not there. Time out for us to believe that there are only certain people in this city that we're supposed to kiss their ring in order to get access to the people. I believe in talking directly to the people.
Reverend Kinlock, thank you. You have
And he's never talked directly to us. I've done the same thing, Pastor, for 12 years, occupying the corners, shoes, backpacks, school supplies, coats. We've given out thousands of resources to our residents year after year, but we've also made meaningful policy changes in this city, fostering an environment of collaboration that has allowed this city to move forward. And we're doing it with action, not just rhetoric, and that is what we will continue to do serving as mayor of this city.
Thank you both. Chuck?
Very good. Let's drill down on something that both of you have referenced in your comments already, but let's try to get pretty specific with it. Recent national statistics show that Detroit's overall poverty rate is about 34%, making it the poorest major city in the United States. More than half of all children in this city are living below the poverty line. How will your administration combat poverty and create good paying jobs, emphasis on good paying jobs at the same time? Council President.
Thank you. So I think about my grandmother who was watching tonight, who struggled to make ends meet growing up. She went to sleep many nights hungry. She was 28 years old when she graduated from high school, and she was the first in her family to graduate from college, and she later went on to become a nurse. But she always talked about education. Education was a tool that she used to change her life and her family's life. And so I will start off by being a champion of education from cradle to career, and also ensuring that we are attracting high-wage, livable wage jobs in our city. No resident should have to work 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And so we're going to be pushing for more jobs. I created the Industry Standards Boards, which brings our workers to the table to negotiate better wages and working conditions. And lastly, we must invest in people. We have a program, Skills for Life, Earn to Learn, that we are paying people to go back and get certifications and work. We must invest directly in people, and I'm also interested in exploring the new RX Kids program that provides direct funding to pregnant families as well.
Thank you very much. Reverend Kinlock, same question to you. Poverty and jobs, how do you tackle these two huge issues?
One, the Kinlock promise will include, first of all, a children's trust fund, that every baby born in the city of Detroit will receive a seed of $1,000, and it will be allocated on a yearly basis up until that child gets to age of 18, and they can use that to open up a business, to go into college, to start a career, to buy a home, or to invest in their community. The second thing we got to do is stop the exit of the African-American middle class out of the city. And the way to do that is by making housing affordable in the city, but also making sure that they have opportunities to make competitive wages in the city by attracting industries who will pay those competitive wages. The other thing is we got to make sure we take care of the people that have already stayed here. We got retirees who've lost their pensions. We've got officers and other municipal workers who've lost their insurance. And it's time to make sure that even if we can't write the whole check, we got to start writing some checks to get them their money back.
Thank you, Council President. You have a response for that? 30
Yeah,
seconds.
we did just that. The last 2 years, the City Council issued a 13th check for our retirees. I know you may not understand the details of this, but we were locked in for quite some time under the bankruptcy, and we could not touch anything with our retirees until just almost 2 years ago. And we issued a 13th check. And as mayor, I will always continue to find ways and resolutions that we can provide relief and support and funding to protect and to invest in our retirees. Poverty is a real issue in this city that really takes a multifaceted approach, but we will lead with education, good jobs, and ensuring that we're directly investing in people.
Pastor Kinlock.
Council President, what I don't have to do is ask you the question on how many times did you vote to increase your pay and slash the pay of city workers. That's not leadership. That's self-interest. At some point, you got to prioritize people and not special interests and just say things just to get people's vote. People are tired of waiting on you. They've been waiting on you for 12 years. You're talking about all this stuff that you've done. It's symbolism and ceremonial. It has not been structural and substantive.
Okay, we're going to leave that there, and we're going to move on to transparency and trust. After the Kwame Kilpatrick scandal, many in the city of Detroit hoped corruption was behind us. Then came that $40 million stolen from the Detroit Riverfront Conservancy. How can Detroiters trust that your administration won't repeat mistakes from the past and ensure transparency and trust? And this question is for you, Reverend Kinlock.
The Kinloch promise would appoint a chief compliance officer. We know we have the inspector general that is reactive, but what we will do is appoint a compliance officer that will be proactive to make sure that the way this city does business and its leaders do business is above board. We cannot go back to a dark cloud of corruption. That's why there was changes in the charter. That's why it is concerning when you have a candidate that's out asking for corporations for tickets, and you know that you're not supposed to receive those gifts, and then you have allegations from the people who received the tickets say that they weren't just given the tickets, that they bought these tickets from the council president. At the end of the day, you can't have that kind of cloud of suspicion operative for the next mayor of the city of Detroit. And at some point, we have to be honest and transparent about the stuff that we're hearing. We got to hold my opponent feet to the fire.
Council President Sheffield, you want to rebut
It's just
that?
unfortunate, misinformation and false statements. One, the city council doesn't approve our pay raises. That is a compensation commission that makes those decisions, not the city council. Secondly, integrity is very important to me. I've served the city for 12 years and have ensured that 12 years I've led with integrity. I was the youngest in the history of the city to take office at the age of 26. And I've ensured that every step of the way that we're leading with accountability and transparency and integrity. I actually was a council member that ensured that we had proportional funding so that all of our oversight agencies have the funding that they need in order to do the job that the charter lays them out to do.
Thank you so much. Last comment from you, Reverend Kinlock.
Yeah, all we have to do is look at the inner circle. It's populated with cronyism. It's populated with individuals that have been found guilty of bribing city officials. If you're saying that that the next mayor should not go into that office with that kind of shroud and cloud over that office, then you need to change your company and you need to change your crowd because it looks suspicious now.
Yes, you could.
Okay, thank you. So, never throw stones from a glass house. We know that we have a cloud of suspicion over yourself. Let's be very clear. Our corporation counsel indicated that there was no violation of the charter. And so I think that's important to mention. Secondly, we're talking about someone whose church purchased his home, right, and then turned around and sold it to him. Same thing with another property in Southfield, right? So you have a myriad of challenges that I would not go into. I think what's most important here is that we continue to move this city forward in a positive way and look at my past actions. 12 years I've served this city with integrity and will continue to do so.
We're going to leave it there and go on to the next question. Chuck.
Very good. Let me ask you a question that borders on relationships. I think it was Tip O'Neill one time said, all politics is local. What about your professional background suggests you will build effective relationships with local, state, and national leaders of both political parties and independents and make sure that we have something that a lot of people say maybe has been forgotten, and that is working together and not being so partisan. Can you give us a specific example of your leadership? Council President.
Thank you. So my 12 years serving on the city council has afforded me the privilege to make numerous relationships and connections, whether it's in the private sector, the corporate sector, and with elected officials on both sides of the aisle. A prime example of this is the inclusionary housing ordinance. I had to go to Lansing and advocate across the aisle to get that ordinance passed. And once we got it passed, that is the ordinance that paved the way for the investment in the creation and preservation of affordable housing units today. What I think is most important is during these very politically challenging times is that we need someone who can find common ground, who can put aside differences and try to find out what can we bring back to the city of Detroit, working with Republicans and or Democrats. We need a uniter. I have been proven to do that, to collaborate and to build partnerships in order to move the city forward around meaningful and important issues. And so we will continue to ensure that we're doing that as we move forward in Detroit.
Thank you very much. Reverend Kinlock.
I want to be clear tonight that the experience I bring is executive level, because I'm the only one here tonight in this race that is a CEO and has been a CEO. I bring executive level experience because I've initiated multitudinous number of programs to benefit the citizens of this city. I've hired, retained, and recruited and developed hundreds of staff members. I have created a budget and had to execute that budget and didn't have the city's piggy bank in order to make sure things got done. When she talks about my integrity and allegations, she's talking about her covert operative that's throwing rocks while they hide their hand. All of these assaults have come by one person, Robert Davis. And if I was an institutional politician, I would have taken the 140 pages of pre-op of opposition research I had on you and smeared your name every day. But I have not done that. But y'all have done that to me every chance you get. And I know that you're doing it.
Time. Just for clarification, you will work with Democrats and Republicans?
I will work with Democrats and Republicans.
All right, very good.
This is a complete distraction. I have no need to try to tarnish his reputation or to go after him. I think voters in this city have been very clear the way they showed up in this last election. I've engaged with them and will continue to show up and engage with our voters. You know, the pastor indicated at the first debate that construction doesn't happen by destruction and that you don't have to tear someone else down to build someone else up. But that is exactly what you've been doing. So I guess you don't practice what you preach. Again, we must focus on the issues of this city. And we need someone who's not talking about challenges, but actually providing solutions, which he has failed to do.
Very good. Pastor, your rebuttal.
You have attacked my church. You have attacked me. You've attacked my wife. You've attacked every good work that we've done in this community. And I have not attacked you. This is not the type of leadership this city needs. This city needs leadership that is going to work with people. Yes, we are opponents and we're in opposition, but we're not enemies. We have both done great things, and we can do great things together if you wasn't so adversarial about it.
Very good.
Let's move on to
Carol,
the next question. Yes, indeed. We're going to talk about the community safety net. Reverend Kinlock, this question
Yes.
is for you. Nonprofits are often the backbone of Detroit, helping families with food, with housing, with safety. As more of them lose funding, they're losing grants. How will your administration, if you're elected, support or strengthen that safety net for Detroit families that are struggling to make ends meet on a daily basis in the city?
The mayor's office not only has the ability to cast vision, he has the ability, or she has the ability, to make sure that we convene the table of stakeholders in order to make sure that we can carry that out. When you look at Marygrove and what Kresge is doing in that neighborhood, when you look at what Tobias Harris is partnering with Brinker and doing affordable housing. Yeah, these things are happening now, but we got to make sure that we do a better job. And that's what I will do as the next mayor of the city of Detroit. I will work collaboratively, bringing people together, not letting people be an afterthought, but letting them be a first thought, so that as they come together, they can participate in the reimagining of what their neighborhood and community will look like. And they will know that they are the #1 priority on my agenda.
Council President Sheffield, what will you do for Detroit families that are struggling to make ends meet, and especially with these nonprofits closing down?
Yeah, so we are proposing an Office of Human, Family, and Homeless Services that will strengthen the safety net that we have in Detroit so that all of our nonprofits and agencies that are currently working in silos has a coordinated approach. We also are going to ensure that we're empowering more opportunity hubs in our neighborhoods to ensure wraparound services, workforce development, and other resources that are available right in our communities. We also are proposing something called Community Anchor Plan, where we're partnering with our faith-based institutions and our nonprofit organizations to give them the funding, the technical support that they need to bring their ideas to fruition. Oftentimes, our nonprofits and our faith-based institutions have amazing ideas and plans on how to redevelop their community, but necessarily sometimes don't have the support from the city. And so we want to provide that support and that funding. We will continue to advocate on a state and federal level that these nonprofits that are receiving funding cuts, that funding is restored, and advocate for more funding here for the city of Detroit as well.
Thank you so much. Reverend Kinlock, do you have a rebuttal?
Yes, and one of the other initiatives that the Kinloch plan and promises promotes and will execute is an Office of Philanthropy. There's a lot of money circulating in the city of Detroit, and it's being left on the table. My office will have a cabinet level position that will work in coordination with all of the foundations in the city to make sure that we're not just giving money to say we gave money, but we'll be using that money in a way where we will set up metrics and give them an opportunity to work collaboratively to do something constructive.
Thank you so much. One last rebuttal.
Yeah, we are going to also ensure that we are increasing and diversifying our revenues in Detroit, being innovative in our approach, definitely leaning on our philanthropic sector as well, who has already made a commitment to ensure that this next mayor is successful. And so what they need is a leader who has vision and can come up with a strategic approach on how to supplement the amazing programs and services that may be cut due to some of our ARPA funding expiring and some of the federal cuts coming from the federal government. So we would drive continue ways to diversify our revenue and also lean towards our philanthropic partners as well.
Thank you both. Chuck?
Thank you, Carolyn. Let's deal with a topic that should be near and dear to the heart of what we all talk about, the Motor City, and that's the issue of transportation. According to Transportation Riders United, there have been a number of transit improvements in our region. Witnessed today the latest proposal, $40 million for Michigan Central Transit Center. But that same organization also says Detroit, and I quote them, Detroit Transit falls short on what this region needs to expand opportunities, end of quote. What plans do you have in mind to improve transit in the city of Detroit? Council President
So a world-class city needs world-class transit. And we know over one third of our residents do not have access to a car. The City Council in this last budget added an additional $20 million to invest in our public transportation system. We also supported $140 million to the Coolidge Terminal facility, $30 million to the Jason Hargrove facility. But we have to address the most pressing issue, I believe, is wait times. We have to ensure that no one is waiting 30, 40, 50 minutes to catch a bus. And so as mayor, my number one priority is to reduce wait times, increase frequency and reliability of our system, make sure that our drivers are paid the wages that they deserve, and make sure that the system is safe. We will also continue our regional conversations with our regional partners to look at a regional approach to transit. And then lastly, look at innovative ways like microtransit and shuttles to supplement the work of what currently DDOT is doing. But my number one focus is reducing reducing wait times for our residents and riders.
Reverend Kinlock, what plans do you have in place to be able to improve transportation, which is not just a Detroit issue, it is really a regional issue?
Yes. We have to approach it from the perspective that it's not an option, it is a necessity. I remember growing up in the city of Detroit, and the only way I can get from point A to point B is I had to depend on public transportation. A lot of our school children are dependent on public transportation. Our family, our community is dependent on public transportation. So it's not an option, it's an obligation that we provide reliable transportation. One of the things we have to do is make sure that we have competitive pay. Our drivers, our workers went without pay, competitive pay, for 20 years. And so while they did make progress on that, we still got a long ways to go. We got to make sure that we have reliable vehicles. Although we made some purchasing, we got to do even more. We got to make sure that our mechanics are trained. We got to make sure that we're retaining our employees and they're not going other places for competitive pay. And we got to make sure that we're keeping our passengers and our employees safe, whether that is partnering with the police department or others.
Thank you, Reverend. Council President, you have a
I am
rebuttal
proud
to that?
to have received the endorsement from the men and women of DDOT, the ATU union, which solidified my commitment to not only the system, but the workers of DDOT. I will continue, as mentioned, to ensure that we are investing in our system. We have to, in order to retain and to attract residents to Detroit, specifically our youth, we have to have a robust transit system. And so you will see an investment from me as mayor every year to ensure that we're making and reaching those goals that have been set by the DDOT Reimagine plan.
Thank you. Reverend Kinlock.
Well, I always have to report back to the fact or point back to the fact that these are not new issues. These are issues that have been negated and neglected for a long time. And it should not take us running for mayor to bring attention, weight, and gravity to this. These are things that we should have been working on intensely and intentionally far better and far more than we have.
Very
All right.
good. Caroline, your question.
We're going to get to the last question, and we're not going to have time for rebuttals, but we're going to give you
Okay.
60 seconds to answer the future of Detroit question on day one. If you are elected mayor, what's the first thing you will do on day one to show Detroiters you are ready to lead, Reverend Kinlock?
One, I would do a evaluation of the top leadership in order to make sure that they are ready to do something courageous and creative to deliver for the people in this city. The second thing I would do is engage Lansing and also engage our federal elected officials in Washington in order to make sure that we're coming together collectively to deal with a lot of the issues. And then we will also convene a table of corporate leaders, foundations of philanthropy, union leaders, our seniors, our residents, in order for them to participate in what they want their neighborhood and community. This should not be a me administration. It should be a we administration. And a vote for me is a vote for them.
Thank you. Council President Sheffield, what are you going to do on day one if you're elected mayor?
Yeah, first and foremost, we have to have the best and the brightest around me. And so I would assume that within the first 100 days or more, we're going to be ensuring that we have the effective and efficient leadership around me. Secondly, we're going to look at ways that we can continue to enhance and improve city services. We still understand that there are a lot of residents who are complaining about basic quality of life issues that we want to figure out how we can better enhance and address. Lastly, we're going to figure out ways that we can bring neighborhood city halls back, opportunity hubs, and resources directly back into our neighborhood so that people and residents and neighborhoods feel included and feel that they have access to city government and to the resources that they need. And then lastly, we will continue our citywide engagement, district by district, block by block, resident by resident, to ensure that we're uplifting the voices of our residents and strategically finding ways to bring investment back into our neighborhoods and making sure that everyone feels that they have a voice and are included at that table.
Well, this has been quite the spirited debate between the two of you, but we're going to move on to our closing statements now, and we're going to start with Council President Sheffield.
Which was decided in that drawing we talked about at the beginning of the
Again,
show.
thank you, WXYZ, for hosting this debate, and thank you all for watching. Detroit, we've come a long way over the past 12 years, and I have to say that it has been an absolute honor to serve you. I've been here with you, alongside you, listening and taking action, whether it's in our streets, occupying the corners, connecting residents with resources, or standing against gun violence with families, or even creating policies like right to counsel that has kept families in their homes from eviction, or creating the Neighborhood Improvement Fund that has turned blighted lots and dump sites into clean and green spaces, or creating the city's first ever tech startup fund and legacy business grants for our entrepreneurs and small businesses. We have accomplished so much, but I believe that our best days are still ahead of us. Together, we will ensure that opportunity reaches every neighborhood and every family of this city, and that housing is affordable, that our educational outcomes are improved, that our neighborhoods are walkable, vibrant, safe, and invested in, and that every Detroiter, no matter how they start or where they start, has an opportunity to thrive. That is the Detroit that I'm fighting for. Now, tonight we've heard from my opponent misinformation, divisiveness, and no specifics. And Detroit does deserve better. I'm Mary Sheffield. I hope to have your vote to finish the work that we started and build a Detroit that works for all of us. God bless you all, and thank you.
Okay. Reverend Kinlock, your 90 seconds.
Detroit, we're at a crossroad tonight of opportunity and choice. And we got to make a decision. Do we go back, or do we stay where we are, or do we move forward? We cannot go back to financial oversight. We cannot go back to bankruptcy. And we cannot go back to corruption in leadership in Detroit. We cannot stay where we are. 51%, more than 50% of the children that live in this city, despite everything my opponent has said that she's done, more than 50% of the children are still living in poverty. Despite everything that she's done, the poverty rate is the highest it has been since 2017. Crime is at an all-time high. We cannot stay where we are. We got to move forward. And the question becomes, do you move forward with a manager and an administrator who wants to maintain the status quo and look out for two or a few Detroiters, look out for downtown and forget about the rest of the town? Or do you want to move forward with someone for the last 27 years has stepped up and stood up and fought for you and will continue to fight for you as the next mayor? We need to build a city that's not just working for some. We need to build a city that's working for all. And that's what Solomon Kinlock will do.
Thank you so much for coming in with us today and hosting this debate and putting your trust in Channel 7. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for. And thank you so much.
Yes, indeed. Don't forget, every vote matters. You can't complain if you don't vote. You can make your voice heard on Election Day, Tuesday, November 4th. Polls open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. the day of, but you can also vote early between October 25th and November 2nd. From all of us here at Channel 7, we thank you for being with us tonight.